Hello.
Hey,
How are you doing?
good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So lovely to meet you and see you and everything. All right, well, let's get into the interview. Could you tell us a little bit about your artistic background and like
Mhm.
where you got started and things like that?
It's hard to say specifically. I kind of always felt like I was an artist. No one really influenced me with that. It's something I always had to champion. But I remember being really little and loving just coloring. So I think I usually pinpoint that as when I started being an artist. But I kind of always knew, especially looking back, because I used to have a lot of toy cars, and instead of racing them, I would line them up and separate them by color and group them in different ways by how they looked. So I was way more interested in them visually than actually playing with
Right.
a car. So that definitely speaks to me always being an artist in a way.
Having that artistic eye from like 3 years old, which is awesome. Like, I see
Yeah.
you.
Or just being a little different. I didn't want to race a car. I wanted to just group it by color.
Right.
That's definitely not what most little boys do.
Definitely. Your work is very much known for having like very diverse medias and things like that. Like you have the hair, some balloons, the diamond dust, the glitter, and the wood and all that stuff. How do you come up with these like materials and
When I was in high school, I was really interested in unconventional sculptures and unconventional materials to make sculptures. And there was a lot of artists I used to look at that were doing that. And I think I kind of have that continuous thread of using unconventional materials to express myself, to create artwork. So I'm still interested in unconventional materials, but just not in a sculptural way, just as a painting. So I kind of
right?
think of it like that.
Yeah, and I can definitely still see it obviously. With all your glitters and diamond dusts and all that cool stuff.
I really don't even I guess now maybe more so, but when I was first painting, I wasn't even really seeing it as a painting. I was seeing it as a sculpture. So I feel like maybe that was just me softening my transition or something into painting, but I feel like that might, I think they're paintings now, but I think that helps open up your how you can add things that wouldn't typically be added. If you're not, if you go into it thinking it's a painting, you're probably gonna want to use paint.
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a great way to look at it, honestly. So most artists have like a very distinct style and like things like that, and you definitely do, but it's very indescribable. How would you categorize that?
I realize that it looks like abstract art, but I definitely don't think of it that way when I'm making it. It's hard for me to categorize my art to a specific style or movement because when I'm making it, I'm just making what I truly want to make. It's not trying to be fit into a mold of something. So it's more so just my true voice that and other people can categorize it however they want, but when I'm in the process of being inspired or kind of finishing a piece, I'm not trying to make it fit into any mold basically. So it's hard for me to say, but yeah.
Yeah, I feel like art always does much better when it's just like genuine, pure expression, and people always receive it much better, whether or not they know it or not, just like subconsciously. Because you can see that human emotion in it, like an AI piece wouldn't do nearly as well as yours because the human emotion, thought, all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's best to you don't want to think about labels too much because you could box yourself into something that you might not need to be boxed into, and categorizing is could be kind of I think it works well in retrospect and looking back on what you've done maybe years from now or something. It might be good to be like, oh, this fits nicely into this, but yeah, when you're making it, you don't want to worry. I don't feel like I want to worry about it too much. But AI is really interesting because I love messing around with that a little bit too.
Walk us through a bit of your creative process, like from the initial idea to like the finished product and things like
Yeah, so the pieces that we have here, they were very intuitive. I actually remember where I was when I first had like an idea for this painting that began the series. It was in Florida, and I just had this idea for like I saw the round curve in my head, and I saw the texture and the color of the painting, and then I saw all of that, and then before I ever made these paintings. So like yeah, it kind of came to me, and wherever that comes from, that kind of like set off this whole series of work with the diamond dust. Now I'm doing something is that's slightly an offshoot of this work, and it's more asymmetrical. It's more geometric, and it's inspired a lot by my drawings. I've been drawing so much more than I used to, and it's so nice to draw. And it's been interesting because sometimes I get something that is actually good enough to be turned into a painting. So a lot of them they speak to each other, and sometimes my paintings I'll turn into a drawing. So it might have been a drawing at first, then it's a painting, then it could be a drawing again. So it's kind of experimenting a lot more with composition than I used to, and that's been really interesting for me.
Yeah, that's really cool. And like some of the pieces you showed me earlier, I can definitely see that. And like I could tell they were slightly different, but I couldn't really put my finger on it. But I like the ones you're doing now a lot more. They're just very much, they're more colorful, more abstract, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, no, that's fine. They are abstract. I just don't think that.
I totally understand why, because they're kind of not. It's just like I said before, it's an umbrella of things you can't explain.
Yep.
I know you work with very like diverse mixed medias and things like that, and I'm sure that comes with so many like issues and mishaps and troubleshooting and things like that. Can you tell us how you like get past that?
Yeah, so I don't run into too many issues because I tend to work slowly when I'm experimenting with something. But when you are using unconventional materials, it you have to compromise the look of your idea for how it looks a lot. Like it doesn't always translate smoothly. So, for example, if you're when I'm using glitter, I love how raw glitter looks on the canvas. It's so rich and luxurious, but if I don't set it with a varnish, it is just gonna fall off and degrade quickly. So there's kind of like that balance of like compromise and mastering the material over time. Because there might be a way to do that, but I'm not there yet.
I can definitely understand how that would take a lot of practice. I would struggle so hard if I was you, but you do so well at like, making it look effortless almost.
Yeah, it's not effortless.
Yeah, but
I struggle so much.
I could not tell.
Yeah.
Can you recommend any like advice or resources to help people who are like thinking about experimenting with like different medias and things like that in a similar way to you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's been so helpful to shop at hardware stores rather than art supply stores because there's so many solutions to weird problems at hardware stores. Like there's so many materials that you can use that actually that's helpful that you wouldn't conventionally think of using for art. So, and I think most artists can relate to that. I think it's like pretty typical these days for artists to be going to hardware stores, but that's I think the best advice.
Yeah, I have never even thought about that, and I'm glad you mentioned it because now I will.
Yeah.
What do you see in the future of like your artistic journey and like things you want to achieve in like the next coming years?
I would love to do a mural. I would love to see my compositions that I'm doing now on like a larger scale mural.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's something like I really want to land. I think it would be really good for my work to work on a larger scale like that. I also am thinking a lot more about sculpture again. I'm kind of like oscillating back into that world. And I have this idea about making these totems out of glittery totems type. Like, have you ever seen the Neon Rocks by Ugo Rodion? I'm probably saying his last name wrong. They're just like these giant, like larger than like a house, like neon rocks stacked. And I just that kind of it's kind of like something like that, but obviously on a much smaller scale. So like, yeah, I just like want to work in a sculptural way again, but we'll see what comes.
Yeah, that sounds awesome. I'm wishing so much luck on that for you. Like that sounds amazing. I cannot imagine like your art style and such like a unique composition. Like Yeah, you're really good at that. And finally, are there any like new and exciting upcoming projects that you're working on or anything like that?
Yes, I have a show coming up at Rosemont College. On the opening reception is the 21st of this month, so it's from 4 to 7. So one of my newer pieces will be there. But other than that, I'm really focusing on working in the studio. So I have a whole new body of work that I hope to show in the future. So,
Yeah, I'm so excited to see.
thank you.
All right, well, it's been lovely talking with you, and I hope you
You
have an
too.
amazing day.
Thank you, OJ.
Of course.